Hello, everyone. This is Last Week in America, and I'm your host, Hao Jiang. I'm currently in California in the cold 10 Celsius. Not my surprise. It gets actually pretty cold in California. It's not always sunny. I'm currently a college student in Clark University, now located in Massachusetts. But I'm currently in California taking online classes. Next slide. So currently in the United States, there's a mask shortage. Currently in the like in the United States, there's a major shortage of masks and other like personal protective equipment, which is called PPEs. PP Personal protective equipment include like gloves, masks, like hospital gowns, and like face covers. Uh, right now, professionals in the United States have now resorted to the use of bandanas and scarves for masks, trash bags for gowns, and the reuse of all sorts of medical equipment. This is this is very concerning because the use of less than ordinary personal protection equipment heightens the risk of infection. There's been a lot of complaints by people working in hospitals about like using like having to use like trash bags as gowns and it's just like it's very problematic because they're in the front line for the fight for fight against coronavirus. Next slide. So things, one of the biggest, one of the biggest PPE that's like really hard to come by right now is the N95 mask. And the N95 mask is essentially a mask used by healthcare and other professionals. And basically, it's a facial mask where they have filters that they're able to filter out 95% of small like particles and like including like bacteria and viruses. Right now, they're only used they're primarily only recommended for use by healthcare professionals, given like the massive shortages of the masks and like due to like massive panic buys, many online retailers like Amazon have pulled the mask from online, only allowing like healthcare professionals to like buy the mask. Uh, Even like in January, like when the virus was like first like picking up, like those masks were very hard to come by in California. Um, I was fortunate enough before I left for Moscow to acquire a couple from my workplace. Um, so to use in Moscow, which I, as you see in the photo, like I use a lot. So understanding the difference between next slide. Understanding the difference between like a regular surgical mask and like an N95 mask. So a regular surgical mask is like usually like it does not provide the wearer with like a reliable level of protection from inhaling like particles and other like bad stuff like viruses and like bacteria. Mostly because while like the N95 mask does, like the N95 mask has a filter that's supposed to filter out at least 95% of airborne particles, including large and small particles. Essentially saying like with the surgical mask, wearing one outside is like not as nearly as useful as wearing an N95 respirator. Um, but as I said before, those N95 respirators are really hard to come by. If you get your hands on one, great. If you can't, you're kind of out of luck. Next slide. So, latest developments relating to masks in the United States. So, on April 2nd, 2020, Trump issued the Defense Production Act on the company 3M. 3M is the major, the manufacturer that makes all these like N95 masks and like most of the hospital surgical masks and stuff. And basically, the Defense Production Act basically compels American companies to perform essential tasks for the government during times of crisis. Right now, given like the shortage of N95 masks in hospitals, and like people like hospitals having to reuse masks like almost every single day, and like it has gotten to a point where where it's like almost very painful for a lot of hospitals to like keep on taking like patients because they cannot adequately protect their doctors. There have been numerous doctors that have been killed because of the virus after like getting infected from treating a patient. Because of like the Defense Production Act, Trump was able to get like a pretty good deal with the company 3M, with the company saying it would produce 166.5 million N95 masks for American hospitals to use across the country. Companies like Fiat Chrysler, New Balance, Ralph Lauren, Canada Goose, Gap, Zara, and Louis Vuitton has also like pledged like to make masks and other personal protection equipment for hospitals to use around the world. The photo here is actually a mask made by the company New Balance, which is made out of shoe parts. As you see here, like the band that holds like the mask in place is like actually a shoelace, and then like the actual mask itself is like different materials used in the process of making shoes, and apparently it does a pretty good job of filtering out all the bad stuff from entering someone. So like I guess it's another good point, like it's another good highlight of like American ingenuity, American the American thought process, I guess, when it comes to making things like this. Next slide. So right now in America, there's also another shortage, and that's guns. There's a gun shortage at gun stores. The virus has caused 1 in 20 Americans to purchase a firearm, and it has like at least 1 in 10. I mean, 1 in 20 American families to purchase a firearm, and it has caused 1 in 10 families to actually consider to purchase a firearm. In March of 2020, the FBI has processed 3.7 million background checks, which is like the most background checks ever been processed by the FBI in a very short period of time. The previous record was in 2012 with the election of Obama. And online firearm stores have reported a 777% increase in the revenue from February to March. Right now, a lot of gun stores like in the city and stuff are being closed. So like a lot of people have been taken to like going online to purchase their firearms and getting it like delivered to their house. Next slide. So more about that stuff. So right now, the state of Illinois is currently in the lead with like in terms of gun sales with 500,000 sales, followed by Texas, Kentucky, Florida, and California. Gun shops across the country report that they are unable to restock shelves and quickly enough to cope with the rush. As you see in the photo below, you can see how empty the gun store is, with a lot of the guns being like purchased by a lot of first-time buyers. Uh, many Americans concerned that like a lot of like the civil society, such as like the fire, the police services, the health services, would be severely limited because of the currently coronavirus. So right now, it's like a lot of Americans have the belief that like it's literally up to them to keep their livelihoods safe and protected in case the like when a lot of law and order breaks down. In America, firearms are viewed as a self-help survival tool. Next slide. How states are reacting to the gun purchasing surge. So some states have allowed gun stores to continue as essential businesses, despite like mandatory lockdown order affecting 90% of the U.S. I know, like states like Texas and have made deemed gun stores to be an essential business. Like an essential business, basically a business that like will remain open during this lockdown in the United States. So essentially, what they're saying is gun stores have about the same privileges as a grocery store. New York, Massachusetts, and New Mexico have forced shops to close, but like they allow them to like sell online. Washington State ordered shops to close, but several continue to operate. In California, the decision to close gun shops rests on local governments. As we see a photo below, the gun store is actually somewhere near Los Angeles, and you can, as you see, there's a really large line. This was actually like taken about a month ago, but because currently in Los Angeles, the local governments decided to shut down most of the gun stores. But like I think there's a lot of contention back and forth, so like they might be opened in the next couple of days, or they might be continue to be closed. And then finally, discussion. Next slide. Discussion questions. So I want to ask you guys, like, why do you think some state governments declare gun stores to be an essential business? This is something that's like, I guess it's pretty uniquely American, but like I want to hear you guys' thoughts about that. Why do you think so many companies are donating and making like PPE, so like personal protection equipment like masks, gloves, gowns, and other stuff? And what do you think will happen to American gun ownership after the virus is over? So please like write on the YouTube chat what you guys think. I will review them, but right now I'm going to answer your questions. Let's see. Give me one sec. One sec. Okay. So why are they panic buying guns? Are they going to shoot each other to get food? I mean, essentially, the panic to get guns is more like to protect their families from people like from people like bad guys from going into breaking into their house and stealing, harming them during the times of crisis. I guess it's just like, so as we've seen it a lot in American like American history, like sometimes the police do not always arrive, and it's up to like something like everyday citizens to protect their families and their livelihoods. I guess in 1992, Los Angeles riots was a very good example where people like the basically law and order was collapsed, and basically was up to like common everyday people to protect their like local businesses and like their homes. There was like in an Asian American community, there was like little like small militias of like-minded adults with like guns guarding their like stores to prevent like rioters from breaking in. I guess like that mentality kind of carried over to what's happening right now, like feeling the need to protect your home in case the situation gets any more worse. Um, uh, this is a question. Another question. What is the reason for increasing purchasing firearms? I guess it's just like I guess like the biggest reason for the purchasing of a lot more firearms is like more of the because of the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the near future. Americans always feel the need to protect themselves, protect their families, protect their homes, and they feel like a firearm is a great mean to protect their families and stuff, especially when like civil society, like law and order, collapses and people resort to like anarchy, basically. Any more questions? It can be questions about anything. You can have questions about my background as an Asian American, my questions about more about firearms. It can be questions about like California, I guess. Questions about college in America, or like talk talk questions about like mask usage and stuff. Uh, One sec. Right now, I'm currently okay. Right now, am I doing home at all this time? Can you work from home? So right now, I I'm currently at home the entire time. I do right now. I'm doing a lot of like my online classes and a lot of online classes online. I mean, a lot of online classes from my classes in Moscow. So like I'm up very early, sometimes like 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. to attend like some of my lectures and stuff. It's kind of hard being in like, still being in Moscow time in California. There's a 10-hour time difference, and like sometimes you're just like you don't feel like you have the proper amount of sleep. I've also been like I guess like trying to learn how to play chess and like learn other skills. I've been reading a lot. I've been trying to stay in touch with friends a lot more. But yeah, like right now, like most Americans have been working at home, especially those in the tech jobs. Like my mom has been home for almost a month, working on like working offsite, I guess. Have you ever had a gun? So I personally do not own a gun right now, but my family does. I go shooting a lot. I go shooting like pretty often. I do like I did grow up with guns to an extent. I like in my city particularly, there's not many people with firearms, considering we're like a very like liberal like we're very liberal city. So like we don't like liberals generally do not like firearms, but like my family is like one of the couple exceptions. Um, I know a couple. I have a couple friends in my city that also own firearms. Like, uh, do you, so where do we buy our firearms? Usually, it really depends on the state. In some states, you can buy firearms online and get it shipped to your house. In other states, you have to buy a gun from a gun store. wait like a 10-day processing time where they do background checks, and then like you have to go to the gun store to pick up the gun. Um, uh, why do people buy them? It could be any number of reasons. I know people that buy guns because they like to hunt. I know people that buy guns because they like sports shooting, like long range target shooting or like clay pigeon shooting. I know people that bought guns because of protection. It's any number of reasons, I guess. Uh, I've I've heard a lot of small companies like cloth producers voluntarily offered to make masks. So like mask making, like yeah, like a lot of companies like New Balance, which is a very big popular clothing chain in America, is like making masks. I'm a little too hesitant to see those masks to be used in hospitals right now because they do not have the proper approval like the N95 masks do. But I think it's a very good step in the right direction, especially for people like for everyday usage for the common people to use. Because right now we are seeing in America where like the common people are like essentially hoarding all like the masks and like usually and then like hospitals are not able to have those masks. But so like I would really like to see that like a lot of the clothing companies that are producing masks to like release their some of their products to the like everyday citizens like me and you. Okay, another question. Do you feel any pressure being an Asian American since the virus spread from China? In Russia, there was interracial tolerance in times of wars. Please take no offense for the question. Okay, so in Russia, I definitely did. Uh, like ever since I landed in like Moscow in early February, it was a little. I felt a little uneasy at times. Sometimes police officers were like passport check me every time I go to a subway station. The worst was actually the babushkas, like your guys' grandmas. Like sometimes they would just go up to my face and like shove like a mask in my face, saying that I must wear it since I'm Chinese. And it was just like it's been a little kind of uncomfortable in Moscow. I kind of learned to accept it and like just carry on with everyday life. In California, it's really depend like it's really like I mean in the United States actually it's really dependent where you live. Like I've been hearing a lot more hate crimes against Asians. Also, a lot of Chinese restaurants are not doing like really good right now because like people are scared to get like the virus from Chinese restaurants, and a lot of them might go out of the business because of the virus. I guess that's another sad casualty of the virus. Um, what else? I mean, in my city alone, like since like my city is, we have a very large Asian population. Like my high school was 70% Asian, so like I don't feel that much racism because but like in other cities, like I've seen a lot of cases coming from New York City, we do see a lot of racism, and sometimes it's a little upsetting. So this question is from Grapefruit Orange. Living among guns, have you ever been worried about the possibility of a mass shooting? Did you have mass shooting drills in school? So possibility of mass shootings. I guess yeah, there was a period of time during my high school high school like late high school years, and then like early college years where it really felt like America was having a mass shooting literally every single month, and it did feel really uncomfortable because like there had been a couple like mass shootings that happened near where I was, and I guess it was a bit concerning, but like I don't know, I feel like owning a gun is an American right, so like but like I do believe there should be things set in place to prevent like mass shootings from happening, like stricter background checks, more of a waiting time for like for processing and stuff like that. But yeah, did you have mass shooting drills in school? Yes, we actually did have mass shooting drills in school. It was some of one of like especially in high school, especially it was one of the more craziest experiences that happened to me in high school. I guess was just like since like my city, like not many people grew up around guns. Like a lot of people are just so like they don't know what to do if like someone comes to school campus with guns. So sometimes like teachers tell us like really funny like information about like what happens if like if a shooter decides to come inside the class. Like what do you do then? Like how do you block the classroom? How do you fight it back and stuff like that? I remember there was an interesting story where like it was during like the mass shootings things, and so there was this event for this English class where like you had to like it required a lot of like balloons to get popped. So there was a lot of balloon popping, and there were above like the English classes are like where the math classes are, and a math professor thought it was like automatic rifle fire, so she actually called the police, and the police came with like the SWAT team. So they just came to the school with like brandishing big guns and stuff, looking for a shooter, and it was just like I guess at the time we all thought it was like really funny because it was just like it was a balloon, not like an automatic rifle. But like looking back now, I can see why like the teacher was like really concerned considering like the number of mass shootings in America. Another question from Grapefruit Orange. Have you heard there's a spike in number of crimes committed in the U.S. in the lockdown, like domestic violence, violent crime committed with guns? People have been mass buying. I've actually seen actually the contrary. I've seen like crime, like violent crime, has like been greatly reduced during the lockdown. I have not heard a single case of like I mean I'm pretty sure there are a lot of like still gun deaths in America, but like I haven't heard of like a very big case of like violent crimes like being committed with like a weapon that was recently bought during the pandemic. A question from Fashaska is, why is there much racism in New York? So in New York City, it's basically a melting pot of cultures. There are a lot of blacks, there's a lot of Hispanics, there's a lot of white people, there's a lot of Asians, and it's just like it's a very diverse melting pot. So like right off the bat, there's a lot of like a higher chance of like confrontation happening between the races, and also like New York City is also it's not a really good representation of how like America operates because things get a lot more crazier in New York City. I've been there like 4 times, and it's just like I still don't have a good impression of the city. It's just like everything is a lot more hectic, and like small town mentality doesn't really work in the city. So I guess, and there's also like like even before the virus, there was also a lot of like racial crimes coming from the city because like the big population and like the big diverse like the diversity in the city. Where in California are you at? So I am in Northern California, near San Francisco, near Stanford University, in a city called Palo Alto, California. We're in the Silicon Valley. We're a big tech city. A lot of like the company Tesla is actually from my city. A lot of like the Silicon Valley billionaires, they also live in my city, and yeah. Uh, Another question: are people taught how to use guns if they purchase it? It's really dependent on the state, and that's one of the things that really concern me because like in some states, people are not like they aren't required to have, I guess, like firearm training classes, or they are, I mean, they're all recommended, but like sometimes people don't take the firearm safety classes and they just buy a gun and they wait the period and they get it. uh, this is especially concerning for me during like the virus because we see a lot of like first time buyers with like know nothing about guns buying guns. And like I'm interested to see how it's going to play out, like what would happen if like the first time buyers actually have to use a gun. But yeah, any more questions? I'm going to drink some water. um yeah, but yeah, gun ownership, like you can't really say that all Americans like guns, because there are parts of America that like do not like guns. Like my part of California, we're like very anti-gun. But yeah, another question: have you ever met a famous person like Elon Musk? So growing up in my city, I've met quite a lot of famous people. I've met like James Franco and his brother Dave Franco. Um, when I was younger, I used to trick or treat for Halloween at Steve Jobs' house, and I would go across the street to go to the Google founder Larry Page house, and I'll hit that house 10 times because like they would give out big chocolate bars. I've actually during one of my Halloween sessions, I've actually met Larry Page. He was also trick or treating. But yeah, like after a while, you kind of realize they're all just like normal people, just trying to have like normal lives. So like you try to not to bother people. You kind of just like sometimes when you see them on the street, you kind of just say like hi and just like nod that you acknowledge them, and then like go go about your day. The last thing they really want you is to make a big deal of it. Um, but yeah, how tough are the quarantine measures in California right now? Pretty tough, honestly. Right now, you only can have like three good reasons to leave your home: going to an essential business, take walking your dog, four, exercising, and going to the hospital. And if you like, let's say if you go to the park to have a picnic, and you're breaking the rules, and there's supposedly there's like a $500 fine or like a 6 months jail sentence, but like I have not seen any cases where it have been enforced in California. But I think it's all pretty. It's like I think most of these quarantine measures are like there for a reason, and I do support most of them. Have you bought any guns for defense? No. For me, like for my family, most of the guns are mostly because like my mother and I are both like we both like guns. We both like shooting guns. But yeah, we defense has not been a really big concern for us until like actually recently. Like I recently had a talk with my mom about like how unprepared we are for the virus, and one of the things like she talked about was just like not feeling safe because like like not having enough like preparation for the virus, I guess. What trendy sitcom is in US? What is your favorite? Um, so right now, I guess like one of my favorite sitcoms is I guess like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's a pretty popular sitcom. I've also like I've also like I've been watching a lot of TV lately because with a lot of the time, like I find myself with more time than I know how to do like how to do with. So there was recently there was a Netflix TV show about called Tiger King, which is about like these people in America that have like tigers and they're like crazy lifestyles, and it's just like it's one of those like TV shows that like you end up hating everyone in the TV show, but it's just super interesting. So you have to finish the episodes. Once again, it's called Tiger King, and like Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness. That's like the entire title, but it's a really good watch, and it is a pretty good description of how crazy life in America can get, especially when it revolves around like stuff like marriage, drugs, and like guns. Uh, what are the prognosis about overcoming the coronavirus in the U.S.? Um, right now, I guess it's just like right now in America. I mean, do you mean like by California or the United States? Because like California, like what the federal government wants and what like the state government in California wants is like kind of completely different. Right now, like as we have seen, like a lot of Trump's inaction during like the early stages have like caused the United States to get to this point, leading the number leading in the world for the number of cases. In California, the current like thought process is more like, oh, let's continue to be on lockdown until like the numbers like really start to drop. Right now, the current lockdown order got expanded to April 30th, just like in Moscow. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot longer. They're probably going to tell us like 30 days at a time. But yeah, it's a little maddening, but at the same time, I realize it's like for the good of us. For me, one of the hardest things is just like finding things to like have hope for. Like right now, I don't know why. Like I really want to go back to college and like see the friends that like I haven't seen for a really long time. But like as I was like recently, I was talking to my recently I was talking to my advisor, and she was like, there's a pretty big chance like classes in person in campus like will not be like a thing during fall 2020 semester. And I guess I'm a little concerned by that because I really want to see my friends right now. Right now, I am like I'm talking with a lot of them, FaceTiming them and stuff. Oh, okay. So right now we got questions to my uh the discussion questions. So guns bring a lot of money. Yes, guns do bring a lot of revenue, and sad, sadly, there's a lot of truth to that statement. Big business, yeah. I think gun stores are considered essential businesses because of how strong gun lobby is and how politicized this issue is. Yes, that's also true. Uh, right now, like the political capabilities of organizations like the National Rifle Association or like the Coalition for Firearms something firearms something, but like they've been like threatening lawsuits with threatening lawsuits to states that like did not declare gun stores to become an essential business. So like right off the bat, like there's some issues with that. As for famous brands producing PPE, personal protection equipment, it may be a charitable gesture of a marketing gimmick. Who can tell? I mean, hopefully, like honestly, like I have great respect for companies that are like changing their like production line to help fight the crisis because we're all in this together. No country should fight alone. Okay, question about Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Jake is really rude with his captain. Is it usual way to communicate with a boss in America? Okay, so it really depends on your boss. Like there are some bosses I've had, like I can like pretty much everything about my life to my boss, but like I've also have like bosses where like, they're like no nonsense and like they don't take anything. Like they don't give anyone slack, I guess. And they're just like so like you're really like you it really depended on the boss. Like some bosses are a lot more serious than others. But like yeah, I can actually see that like being a pretty common way to like communicate with a boss in America. Like I personally have done that like in a lot of my like lifeguarding jobs. Any more questions? It can just be in life in America in general or something. More water. Okay. Uh, yeah, it's just like I don't know. It's sometimes Hollywood does a pretty good job of capturing what America is like. Other times it does not. One thing that yeah, one thing I'm just really surprised is just like how like a lot of people around the world, their impression of America mostly comes from Hollywood, and it's like not always correct. And it's just like sometimes you're just like, as an American, you're just like, actually, it's kind of like this. It's not really like that. Did you meet any time with mob members? Oof. I can neither confirm or deny that in Russia, but no, I did not, sadly. Uh, Russia, like one of my friends from America was joke, given like how friendly I am and like how much I want, like how social I am. He was gonna joke. He used to joke to me. It was like, oh, by the end of your time in Russia, you're gonna have mob connections. Sadly, that did not happen. As you may know, my time in Russia was cut short. I was only in Russia for 7 weeks. They were the best and most stressful 7 weeks of my life. I had a great time, had lots of fun. I loved Moscow. It was honestly a great time. I'm a little sad I'm back, but I guess it's for the best. Where in the US would you like to live and build a career? In California? Honestly, yes. Like I want right now, I want to grow up in California. I want to stay in California, but I want to move to another section of California, in Southern California, near San Diego. Uh, I guess like in California, it's just like I mean, in the United States in general, there's a lot of like bubbles, like community bubbles, where like so like literally every single community feels a little different. Right now, I'm growing tired of my current community in Palo Alto, California, and I don't think it's like representative of all of America. So like, I really want to leave and see the other side more. Sorry. But yeah, I can totally see myself living in the other part of California near San Diego. Have you traveled a lot across the U.S.? What's your favorite state? I guess yeah, I have traveled a lot in the U.S. Actually, I've been to half the states, so 25 in total. My favorite state? Oof, that's a hard question. I guess I really like, in terms of beauty, like I really like West Virginia. I think it's like because it's so untouched and like it's so beautiful, but like it's a pretty difficult like state to live in. Like when I was in West Virginia, I did face a couple cases of racism and stuff like that. But I just love the beauty because like not many places in America where you can see that much like untouched wilderness. That's it looks and that's beautiful and stuff. What's a big difference between a California and New Yorker? Oof. The biggest difference between a California and New Yorker, in my opinion. So in New Yorker, people are more they're more upfront. They're they're jerks like upfront. Like they were like very genuine with their emotions, I guess. So like but in California, they're jerks that pretend to be your friend. So while they're trying to become your friend and like giving the impression is like nothing is wrong, they're also stabbing you in the back, saying like, "Oh, like stabbing you in the back, trying to be like more like try to gain like an advantage over you." Growing up in my high school in California, it felt exactly like that. Even like my interactions with teachers, my interactions with other students, it was very competitive uh, environment, competitive environment, and I don't think it's really representative of all of America. Okay, last slide. Uh, Thanks for listening. Remember, keep calm and stay inside. Use hand sanitizer. Be sure to wipe down like all your computer and electronic appliances. Stay safe. Stay inside. Once again, I'm Hal. This is with the American Center. Like our Facebook page, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.